What is Control A.8.16 in ISO 27001-2022? Logs tell you what happened. Monitoring tells you what is happening right now. While logging creates the forensic record for investigation, security monitoring is the active process of watching that record in real time to detect anomalous or suspicious activity before it becomes a full incident. Control A.8.16 requires organizations to monitor networks, systems, and user activity to detect security threats. Let us explore what monitoring covers, the tools that enable it, and how organizations build the human and technical capability needed to make monitoring effective. Let us examine the monitoring scope that A.8.16 requires, the tools used to monitor different activity types, and how alert thresholds are calibrated to detect threats without overwhelming analysts. Security monitoring covers network traffic, user behavior, system performance, and application activity, using tools including SIEM, IDS/IPS, UEBA, and NDR to detect anomalous and suspicious activity. Network traffic monitoring provides visibility into data flows across the organization's infrastructure, both the expected flows that constitute normal business operations and the anomalous flows that may indicate an active attack. IDS and IPS tools inspect network packets against signatures of known attack patterns, alerting or blocking malicious traffic in real time. Network detection and response tools analyze traffic metadata and behavior patterns to identify threats that signature-based tools miss, including novel malware, encrypted command and control traffic, and lateral movement techniques. Network monitoring should cover both perimeter traffic, the boundary between the organization and the internet, and internal east-west traffic, the flows between systems inside the network, because attackers who have gained initial access move laterally across internal systems rather than generating perimeter-detectable traffic. User and entity behavior analytics tools establish a statistical baseline of normal user behavior, the times at which a user typically authenticates, the systems they typically access, the volume of data they typically access, and the geographic locations from which they typically connect. When observed behavior deviates significantly from this baseline, UEBA generates an alert for analyst investigation. Behavior-based monitoring is particularly valuable for detecting insider threats, where the attacker is an authorized user whose individual actions may be individually legitimate, but whose overall pattern reveals malicious intent, and for detecting compromised accounts where an attacker is using stolen credentials but exhibits behavior patterns inconsistent with the legitimate account owner. System performance monitoring contributes to security detection because many attack techniques produce characteristic performance signatures. Cryptomining malware drives CPU utilization to abnormally high levels. Ransomware encryption produces high I/O activity across large numbers of files. Data exfiltration generates unusual network egress traffic volumes. Denial of service attacks produce traffic spikes that are visible in network throughput metrics. Integrating performance monitoring alerts with security monitoring processes so that a sudden CPU spike on a server generates a security investigation, not just an infrastructure ticket, extends detection coverage to attack techniques that do not produce conventional security events. Privileged user activity monitoring deserves special treatment within the security monitoring program because privileged users have the greatest potential to cause harm, whether through malicious action, credential compromise, or inadvertent error. All administrative sessions should be logged in full detail, and activity patterns for privileged accounts should be monitored for anomalies, including access at unusual times, access to systems outside the user's normal scope of administration, bulk data access, and configuration changes that disable security controls. For the highest privilege accounts, domain administrators, cloud platform administrators, and database administrators, privileged access management tools that provide session recording and real-time monitoring should be considered mandatory rather than optional. For key tools that form the technical foundation of a security monitoring program, the SIEM is the analytical heart of a security monitoring program. Its unique value is correlation, the ability to identify attack patterns that span multiple systems and time periods. A single failed login attempt is noise. 500 failed login attempts across 50 accounts over an hour is a credential stuffing attack. A login success on its own is normal. A login success from an IP address geographically inconsistent with the user's previous behavior, followed immediately by bulk data access, is a compromised account. Only a system that correlates events across sources and time can reliably detect these distributed attack patterns at scale. IDS and IPS tools provide signature-based detection of known attack patterns in network traffic and host activity. IDS tools detect and alert. IPS tools actively block malicious traffic in real time. Signature databases must be kept current to detect new attack variants, and rule sets must be tuned to the organization's specific environment to minimize false positives. IDS/IPS tools are most effective for detecting commodity threats and known malware. Advanced persistent threats that use novel techniques, living off-the-land attack methods, or encrypted command and control channels may evade signature-based detection, making IDS/IPS most effective when combined with behavior-based and anomaly detection tools. UEBA applies machine learning and statistical analysis to establish what normal looks like for each user and entity in the environment, and to identify deviations that may indicate a security threat. Unlike rule-based detection, which requires analysts to anticipate specific attack patterns and encode them as rules, UEBA can identify novel threats that do not match any known attack signature because they deviate from established baseline behavior. UEBA is particularly effective for detecting slow and low insider threats, where a malicious insider gradually escalates access or exfiltrates data in small quantities over an extended period, which are designed specifically to avoid triggering rule-based alerts. The Security Operations Center is the human component of the security monitoring capability. It consists of the analysts who review SIEM alerts, investigate potential incidents, escalate confirmed threats, and coordinate the incident response process. The SOC model varies significantly between organizations. Some operate a 24/7 in-house SOC with dedicated analysts. Others use a business hours monitoring model. Many small and medium organizations outsource SOC functions to a managed security service provider. The choice of SOC model depends on the organization's risk appetite, the nature of the threats it faces, and its ability to staff and sustain an in-house capability. ISO 27001 does not prescribe a specific SOC model, but expects that monitoring activities are continuous enough to detect threats in a time frame consistent with the organization's incident response objectives. Let us examine the operational requirements for effective security monitoring, including how alert thresholds are tuned, what coverage model is appropriate, and how monitoring of privileged users is managed. Effective monitoring requires tuned alert thresholds, defined coverage hours, a structured response process, and continuous improvement driven by threat intelligence and operational experience. Alert tuning is the operational discipline that determines whether a security monitoring program delivers value or generates noise. Monitoring tools that generate thousands of alerts per day cannot be effectively triaged by human analysts. The important alerts are lost in the volume. Effective tuning requires a continuous cycle of reviewing alert volumes and types, identifying false positive patterns, adjusting thresholds and suppression rules, and validating that tuning changes do not reduce detection capability for real threats. The target is not zero false positives, which would require thresholds so conservative that real threats are missed, but a manageable alert volume where analysts can investigate every alert within the time frame required by the incident response procedure. Monitoring coverage hours must reflect the organization's risk profile and threat landscape. Attackers do not respect business hours. Ransomware, data exfiltration, and account compromise can occur at any time of day or night. Organizations with high-risk profiles, those that handle large volumes of sensitive data, operate critical infrastructure, or are known targets for advanced threats, should aspire to 24/7 monitoring coverage. Organizations with lower risk profiles may determine that business hours monitoring supplemented by automated alerting for critical events is a proportionate and defensible approach. The key requirement is that the monitoring coverage model is explicitly defined, risk-justified, and reviewed when the threat landscape or business environment changes. The SOC model is one of the most significant operational decisions in implementing 8.8.16. An in-house 24/7 SOC provides the highest level of context, control, and institutional knowledge, but is expensive to staff and sustain, typically requiring a minimum of 6 to 8 analysts to provide genuine 24/7 coverage. An outsourced MSSP provides experienced analysts and mature tooling at lower cost, but with less organizational context and potentially slower response times for complex incidents. Hybrid models, where in-house analysts handle daytime monitoring and escalation, with an MSSP providing out-of-hours coverage, combine the contextual knowledge of internal staff with the scale and cost efficiency of a specialist provider. The appropriate model depends on the organization's threat profile, regulatory requirements, and available budget. Measuring monitoring effectiveness is essential to demonstrating that the monitoring control is working and to identifying improvement opportunities. Key metrics include mean time to detect, the average time between the start of an attack and its detection by the monitoring system, dwell time, the time an attacker remains undetected in the environment after gaining access, false positive rate, the proportion of alerts that do not represent genuine security threats, and mean time to respond, the time between alert generation and analyst response. These metrics should be tracked over time, reported to management, and used to drive continuous improvement in detection capability, analyst efficiency, and tooling effectiveness. Let us bring together the essential points from our exploration of Control A.8.16 monitoring activities. If you want to master all 93 Annex A controls in ISO 27001-2022, our complete Udemy course covers every control in depth with practical implementation guidance, policy templates, and audit-ready evidence frameworks. Enroll today and build the security knowledge your organization needs. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, please like and subscribe. See you in the next video.